Hey everyone! So today we're going through two unsettling Reddit stories, and a couple of these really got to me. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more. Let's get into it. My family, 25 female, says I have been calling them every Sunday for 5 years. I have not spoken to them since 2021. Posted 3 days ago on r/offmychest. I do not even know where to start with this. I am 25, female, and I work from home as a copywriter. I live alone in a house I bought a year and a half ago. No roommates, no partner, no pets at the time. Just me and my deadlines. I cut off my family in 2021, my mother Diane and my younger brother Ethan. I am not going to get into the full details of why, because that is its own post, but it was bad enough that I changed my number, moved twice, and did not look back. I have not dialed their number once. Not on holidays, not on birthdays, not when I was lonely enough that the walls felt like they were closing in. I made my decision and I held it. For 3 years, my life has been quiet. I work, I eat, I sleep. Sometimes I go for walks. I talk to one person regularly, my college friend Mara, who helped me move into this place. That is it. That is the whole picture. Last Thursday, my doorbell rang around 7 in the evening. I was not expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. It was Diane. She was standing on my porch, crying. I opened the door because I did not know what else to do. She grabbed my arms and said she had been so worried because I missed last Sunday's call. She said it was the first one I had missed in 5 years. I just stood there. I have not called her. Not once. Not ever. I told her that, and she looked at me like I had lost my mind. Then she pulled out her phone and played a voicemail. It was my voice. Not someone doing an impression. My voice. My exact cadence, the way I laugh through the ends of sentences, the way I trail off when I am thinking. And the voice was describing the layout of my house. The house I moved into 18 months ago and never told my family about. I had to sit down on the porch steps. I do not know who has been calling my mother. Someone had been living her life every Sunday, and they knew exactly where she slept. She let Diane inside. That was the first mistake. I brought her into the kitchen because I did not know what else to do with her. My estranged mother sitting at my kitchen table in a house she should not have known existed. I made tea out of habit and my hands would not stop shaking. I asked her how long. How long had these calls been happening? She looked at me like I was asking something obvious and said, "Every Sunday for 5 years. Every single one. She never missed until last week." Diane started telling me what we talked about on those calls, and that is when I really started to lose it. The voice, whoever it was, knew I work as a copywriter, knew I adopted a cat last spring, knew the name of the coffee shop 2 blocks from my house, knew that my neighbor has a loud dog. These are not things you guess. These are things you know because you are in someone's life. I sat there running through every person who has that kind of access to my daily routine, and the list is so short it barely exists. My coworkers are all remote. I do not have friends in my neighborhood. The only person who knows where I live, who has been inside this house, who knows what my days look like, is Mara, my college friend, the one person I kept when I burned everything else down. I pushed the thought out as fast as it came in because Mara is the only real friend I have, and I cannot afford to lose her to paranoia. After Diane left, I pulled up my phone records, going back as far as the carrier would let me. I checked every single outgoing call. There is nothing. Not one call to Diane's number. Not one call to Ethan. Not a single dial. I am not imagining this. I am not forgetting. Someone else has been calling my mother every Sunday pretending to be me, and they know things about my life that only someone close to me could know. The list had one name on it. She already knew. She asked Diane to forward the voicemails. Then she sat alone and listened. I got 5 of them. 5 saved voicemails spanning the last 8 months. I sat on my couch at 11 at night with every light in the house on, and I played them one by one. The voice knew things. Not just surface-level details. It used an inside joke Diane and I had from when I was a kid, something about burning toast on purpose because I liked the smell. Nobody knows that. Nobody outside my family. It even paused in the same places I pause when I'm trying to find the right word. I started looking into voice cloning because I did not know what else to do. It turns out you can train these tools on just a few minutes of clean audio and get something frighteningly close to the real thing. And then I remembered. I had a YouTube channel in college, dozens of videos, me talking about books, doing little essay-style recordings for a class project, hours of my voice just sitting out there in the open. I pulled it up and it was all still public, every single video. I felt sick. Someone took my voice and built a puppet out of it and called my mother with it every week for 5 years while I was sitting alone in this house thinking I had finally found peace. I have not told Diane any of this yet, but there is something else that has been eating at me. When she was at my kitchen table, she mentioned offhand that the fake me, had been bringing up medical bills in the last few calls, asking if Diane could help with some costs. Diane said it casually, like, of course she would help her daughter. I did not think much of it at the time, but now it will not leave my head. Whoever is doing this is not just impersonating me. They are building towards something. Nocturnal Reader. The voicemail detail is what gets me. Not just your voice, your speech patterns, your pauses. Whoever did this studied you. Empathy. Have you checked your cloud storage, your old email accounts? Anything that might have recordings of your voice someone could have scraped? Voice cloning only needs a few minutes of clean audio these days. Wren in the wall. The fact that the voice described your current house means this person has been inside it or has access to photos. That is the part you should be focused on right now. Change your locks tonight. I changed the locks yesterday morning, and yes, the voicemail mentioned my kitchen window that looks out onto the back fence and the crack in the hallway ceiling I have been meaning to fix. Only one person has ever been inside this house besides me. I think I already know who it is. I just do not want it to be her. She knew. She had known since the kitchen table. 2 days later, Grace came back with the update. I found out who was calling my family and why. It was Mara. I am just going to say it because I do not have the energy to build up to it anymore. My college friend. My only friend. She had been using voice cloning software trained on my old YouTube videos to call Diane every Sunday for 5 years. She cloned my voice, learned my speech patterns, and called my mother every week pretending to be me. But she was not doing it to help. She was not trying to mend what I broke. She had been telling Diane that I was diagnosed with a terminal illness and that I needed money for treatment, but was too proud to ask directly. She told Diane not to bring it up with me because I would shut down. She told her to just send it quietly. And Diane did. For 5 years, Diane sent money to an account she believed was my medical fund. Nearly $40,000. All of it went to Mara. I found the transfer records when I finally asked Diane to show me everything. Dozens of deposits to an account I have never seen. I confronted Mara at her apartment. She did not deny it. She did not even flinch. She said Diane deserved to lose that money after what she did to me. She said she was the only one who actually cared about what I went through, and that Diane needed to pay for it. Like she had appointed herself my judge and my executioner and my accountant all at once. I left her apartment and sat in my car for an hour. I could not drive. I could not think. The person I trusted most in the world had been wearing my voice like a costume every Sunday for 5 years, and robbing my mother while she cried on the other end of the phone, thinking her daughter was dying. Just passing through. 5 years of weekly calls, and you never got a single notification or call back from your family? That means whoever did this also made sure your mom never tried your real number on a whim. Sunk cost dreams. I keep going back to the 5-year timeline. That is not impulsive. That is someone patient enough to maintain a second life as you on a weekly schedule. That takes discipline. Just passing through. Discipline and motive. Nobody keeps a con running for 5 years out of boredom. There is money, access, or control somewhere in this. The OP needs to ask her mom exactly what those calls covered, especially anything involving finances or medical information. $40,000 and 5 years of Sundays. All gone. Grace had one last thing to do. I sat Diane down at my kitchen table for the second time in a week, and I told her everything. I told her I am not sick. I have never been sick. I told her I never forgave her, and that every single Sunday call she thought she was having with me was manufactured by someone else. I told her about the voice cloning, about the YouTube videos, about Mara. She did not cry. She just looked down at her hands and kept looking at them like she was trying to read something written on her palms. The money is gone. Nearly $40,000 sent over 5 years to an account that has probably been closed by now. Mara changed her number the day after I confronted her. She has not responded to anything. I filed a police report, but I do not know what will come of it. I keep trying to make sense of what happened to me, and I cannot get past one thing. The estrangement was the hardest decision I ever made. It cost me everything familiar. And someone I trusted took that distance, the silence I chose on purpose, and turned it into a mask she could wear once a week to rob my mother. She took the bridge I burned and rebuilt it just so she could walk across it and take what was on the other side. I do not know if Diane and I will ever have a real relationship again. I do not know if I want one. But I know that whatever chance we might have had got poisoned by someone who decided my pain belonged to her. I still live alone in this house. Sundays are quiet now, the way they always were. But the silence feels different when you know someone else was filling it without you. Empty hallway. I am genuinely disturbed. This is not a prank. Someone built an entire parallel relationship with your family using your identity. Please get a lawyer involved before you do anything else. On to the next one. My online friend of 6 years visited me and showed me photos taken inside my house. Photos I never sent him. Posted by BurntOutPT to r/letsnotmeet 3 days ago. Someone had been inside his home, and they had a camera. I'm a 30-year-old physical therapist. I work at a small outpatient clinic about 40 minutes from the cottage I share with my mother, Helen. It's rural out here. Closest neighbor is a 10-minute drive, nothing but fields and tree lines between us. I've lived here my whole life. It's quiet. It's safe. At least, I thought it was. About 6 years ago, I joined a gaming Discord server, and that's where I met Milo. We hit it off immediately. Same sense of humor, same taste in games, same habit of staying up way too late on work nights talking about nothing. Over 6 years, we voice chatted hundreds of times. We knew each other's schedules, families, fears. He knew about my mom's health issues. I knew about his divorce. But we had never met in person. Not once. Then, about 2 months ago, Milo told me he was relocating for a new job, and the new office was only an hour from my town. He suggested we finally meet up, a cafe halfway between us. I said yes immediately. I was nervous, honestly. You build someone up in your head over 6 years, and there's always that fear the real thing won't match. But it did. Milo was warm, easy to talk to, exactly who I expected. We ordered coffee, laughed about how weird it was to finally see each other's faces in real time. And then he got quiet. He put his phone on the table, opened his photos, and slid it across to me. He said someone claiming to be my housemate had been messaging him for months, sending him pictures of my house. He thought I knew. I looked down at the screen. The first photo was my mother's bedroom, the door I lock every morning before I leave for work. The second was the upstairs hallway, taken from an angle near the linen closet. The third was the kitchen at night. Helen was asleep in her chair by the window. The oldest photo was dated 4 months earlier. I was looking at the inside of my own home, taken by someone I could not identify, on days I was not there. 4 months. Someone had been watching for 4 months. He needed answers. Milo had all of them, and none of them at the same time. I asked Milo to show me everything. Every message, every photo, every timestamp. He handed his phone over without hesitating. The account that contacted him was a throwaway. No profile picture, generic username, created about 5 months ago. The first message was friendly, casual. It said something like, "Hey, I'm his housemate. He talks about you all the time. I want to help plan a surprise visit for him." Milo said he thought it was sweet. He said he never questioned it because the person knew details about me, my work schedule, my mother's name, the games we played together. They sent photos of the cottage as proof they were real. Milo thought he was helping plan something nice. I told him I don't have a housemate. It's just me and Helen. His face went white. I drove home faster than I should have. Checked every door, every window, every lock. Nothing was broken. Nothing looked wrong. Helen was in the kitchen, perfectly calm, and I asked her if anyone had been inside the house recently. She got this confused look and said, "Well, yes, Corinne comes by." I had never heard that name in my life. Helen explained she had hired a part-time aide a few months back, a woman named Corinne who helped with cleaning, errands, small things around the house. Helen said she only came during the day while I was at the clinic. She seemed lovely, Helen told me, very polite, very helpful. I asked why she never mentioned this to me. Helen shrugged and said she didn't think it was important. I stood there in the hallway, trying to process the fact that a stranger had been walking through my home for months with a key I never knew existed. Then I went upstairs to my office. My laptop was on the desk where I always leave it. I opened the browser and there it was. Discord, still logged in. My messages with Milo, open and scrollable. Every conversation we had ever had sitting right there for anyone to read. She had the key. She had the screen. She had everything. The dates told him everything he needed to know. I sat down that night and matched every single photo timestamp against my clinic schedule. Every one. Every photo was taken on a day I worked. Not a weekend, not a day off, not a holiday. Whoever took those pictures knew exactly when I would be gone. I went back to Helen, and this time I pressed harder. She told me Corinne had been coming 2 or 3 times a week for about 5 months. She had a key. Helen gave it to her so she could let herself in on mornings when Helen was slow getting to the door. I asked Helen to describe her, and she said mid-20s, brown hair, quiet, always smiling. She said Corinne was lovely. That word again. I sat down at my laptop and opened the browser history. What I found made my hands shake. Discord had been accessed dozens of times on days and at hours when I was not home. Someone had been opening my private messages with Milo and reading through them. Not just recent ones, but conversations going back years. The late-night talks where I told him about my father's death. The time I broke down about feeling trapped in this house. Every stupid inside joke, every voice message summary, every vulnerable thing I ever typed to the one person I trusted most. All of it, consumed by a stranger sitting at my desk. I called the number Helen had for Corinne. Disconnected. No voicemail, no forwarding, nothing. I filed a police report that evening. The officer was polite, but I could tell he didn't fully grasp the scope of it. I will be posting an update soon because things got worse. The comments section understood what the police did not. No sleep, Nina. The fact that she had an entire room in your house and you didn't know is the part that genuinely rattles me. How long was she sleeping there on the nights you were home? Milo deserves peace. I feel terrible for Milo, too. Imagine finding out the sweet housemate you've been chatting with is actually a stranger who reverse-engineered your personality from stolen messages. He must feel so violated. Paranoid, but right. Please tell me you have changed every password and wiped that laptop. If she had months of access, she could have installed a keylogger or forwarded your sessions. I wiped the laptop the same night I found the notebook, changed every password I can think of, enabled 2-factor on everything. The thing that keeps eating at me is I used to leave Discord open on the kitchen table while I cooked dinner. She could have been reading over my shoulder in real time and I would have had no idea. The cottage is old. The floors creak constantly. I would have just assumed it was my mom moving around upstairs. Burnt Out PT came back with the update. I found out who sent him the photos of my house. Police traced the throwaway account to a device registered to Corinne. Her real name, her real phone. different from the disconnected numbers she gave Helen. The full picture came together, and it is worse than I imagined. Corinne had been reading my Discord messages on my home laptop for months. Not skimming, reading. She went through years of conversations between me and Milo, and somewhere in all those words, she developed a fixation on him. Not on me, on Milo. She used what she learned to message him as my housemate, fed him details only someone close to me would know, and slowly built towards suggesting they arrange a surprise visit. She engineered the entire meetup. When I pieced this together, I drove home to confront her, but she was already gone. Helen said Corinne had come by that morning, stayed about an hour, and left. But she left something behind. There is an attic room above the upstairs hallway that we use for storage. I went up there and found a sleeping bag, a phone charger, and a notebook. The notebook is what broke me. Pages and pages of hand-copied conversations between me and Milo, transcribed word for word from my Discord. She had drawn hearts in the margins. She wrote commentary next to things Milo said. Little notes like, "He is so patient, and this is why he is different." In the back of the notebook there was a list. Milo's daily routine, his coffee order, the gym he mentioned once in passing, the name of his dog, the town where his sister lives. All of it pulled from things he said casually in our chats over 6 years. Every private word I ever shared with my closest friend had been harvested by a stranger living in my attic, and she used that intimacy like a map to pull him closer. Dusty Ranch Hand. I work in home health, and this is exactly why we tell families to run background checks, even for informal hires. Your mom probably just wanted help and didn't think twice. I'm sorry, man. Late night scroller. The notebook detail made my stomach drop. She wasn't just watching you. She was studying Milo through your words, like he was a character in a book she was writing herself into. Dusty Ranch Hand. That is exactly what it is. This is not a stalker fixated on the person in front of her. She fell for someone she built entirely from secondhand text. He was just the window she climbed through to reach him. He found Corinne's last written words. They changed everything. Police traced Corinne to a rental property in a town about 40 minutes south of us. By the time they got there, she was gone. Landlord said she paid in cash, kept to herself, left no forwarding address. That was 2 weeks ago, and she still has not been found. Helen has not been the same since I told her everything. She barely speaks. She sits in the kitchen and stares at the door like she is waiting for someone to walk through it and tell her it was not her fault. I have tried telling her that myself, but she does not believe me. She keeps saying I let her in. I gave her the key. This is on me. I do not know how to fix that. Milo and I are still friends. We text. But we have not voice chatted since the day we met at the cafe. Neither of us has said why. I think we both feel the same thing, that someone might still be listening, that any call we make could be overheard the way our written words were read for months without our knowledge. It is not rational, but it sits in your chest and it does not leave. I went through the notebook one more time before handing it over to police. The last entry was dated 2 days before Corinne cleared out of the attic. It was just one line, written in the center of the page in handwriting that was steadier than anything else in the book. It said, "He sounds even better in person." Milo and I met at that cafe 3 days after that entry. She was there. She had to have been there, watching, close enough to hear his voice. And I sat across from him the entire time and never saw her. Quieter than you think. The scariest line in this whole post is that the oldest photo is from 4 months ago. That means she had a camera in your mother's bedroom for at least 4 months, and nobody noticed a single thing. And that is the last story for today. Thanks for listening, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing.